We have all seen different versions of the food pyramid for us humans, though what about for our dogs? What should the food pyramid look like for our dogs? What should the optimal pyramid look like, and what does it look like in reality from what our dogs are actually eating? Does the optimal match the reality? Actually, it's pretty far off, to put it nicely. Let's take a look. Hi, I'm Ingunn, the Norwegian Viking behind Viking Dog Girl. I hold the certificate as a pet food nutrition specialist, and I'm here every week sharing all things dog. Basically, how to live the best life with your dog. And I do things the Viking way, which means no sugarcoating and no BS. I'll give it to you straight so that you can help your dog be as healthy, happy, and live as long as possible. Now, what is the optimal diet for dogs? Well, to answer that, we have to go back to evolution and look at what our dogs are designed to eat. What they are designed to eat will naturally be what's most nutritious and healthy. Nature is smart. Now, dogs are carnivores, and they're also scavengers. Dogs are highly adaptable and may survive on a lot of different diets, though not all of those diets will actually be healthy for our dogs. Their whole digestive system is designed to eat other animals. It's designed to digest and extract nutrients from other animals. It's not like the digestive system of cows, for instance, that are designed to extract nutrients from grass. Dogs wouldn't be able to do the same. Actually, a lot of nutrients from plants in general may be much more difficult for our dogs to digest and absorb and actually make use of those nutrients. We say that those nutrients are less bioavailable for our dogs. And in addition, not all the nutrients that our dogs need may actually be found in plants. So our dogs really should get most of their nutrients from animal foods. They could eat some plant matter on occasions, maybe for instance some berries or fruits or some low carb or low starch veggies. In general though, a natural diet for dogs would naturally contain zero processed food. Based on this and other foods that we have available, we may put together a food pyramid for dogs that looks something like this. Now, this is a pretty amazing food pyramid that's based on optimal nutrition for dogs. Feeding a diet like this would mean feeding mostly amazing quality protein and fat and very little carbs. If anything, it would be mostly fiber. The question is this what we're feeding our dogs today? Are our dogs eating for optimal health and nutrition? Now, to answer that question, I had a look at some of the most popular dog foods out there. Dog food, as you probably know, don't actually come with the recipe itself, so it's only possible to make estimates here. And the way I'm able to make estimates is by looking at the ingredient list, for instance. The other thing we can look at is the guaranteed analysis. The guaranteed analysis does not include all the macronutrients, and it also only includes estimates, some minimum and maximum values only. So we can calculate what we need from this guaranteed analysis. However, this will only be estimates. Now, I'm going to show you what I found for 5 of the most popular dog foods out there. Just note that these are only examples. There may of course be other dog foods that are a bit better or worse off than these ones, though I think in general it gives a pretty good representation. Now, the first one we'll look at is Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula Adult Chicken and Brown Rice Recipe Dry Dog Food. Now, based on the guaranteed analysis, this is what I found for the macronutrients. This is all calculated on a dry matter basis. Now, as you may see, the amount of carbs is super high. It's more than 50% of the food. Now, remember that carbs is not actually required in the diet for dogs. So half of the food is actually not required for the dog. Now, based on this and the ingredient list, I put together a kind of a food pyramid specifically for this food. I didn't include all the ingredients. I only included some to give you a pretty good indication. Now again, this is not an exact science here, these are only estimates based on the information that I actually have available. Take a look at this food pyramid. Take a look at the base of this diet. It doesn't match at all the diet of a carnivore, does it? And note that anything with a meal at the end, for instance chicken meal, means that it has been highly processed before it was even added to the mixture. This ingredient in itself is a kind of a powder. And then all of the ingredients in this dog food was highly processed through the extrusion process, which is the process of creating kibble, or the process that they use to make kibble. Now let's look at a different example to compare, namely Purina 1 Smart Blend Chicken and Rice Adult Formula Dry Dog Food. Here's the estimate of the macronutrient breakdown of this food. As you may see, there's a bit more protein and a bit less carbs in this diet, which is nice, though we don't necessarily know if this protein actually came from animal foods or maybe from plant matter, which might not be the best protein for our dogs. Based on this and the ingredient list, let's look at the food pyramid for this food. It's estimated to look something like this. As you may see, there is no animal food at the base of this diet. Now, what's important to note is that even though some kibble may actually have real meat as one of the main ingredients on the ingredient list, those might not actually make up much of the food at all. The reason for that is that when they are added to the mixture, they contain a lot and lots of water. Fresh meat may contain about maybe 70% water, and this water, because of the processing, will disappear, and what you are left with is very little food. So even if real chicken is the number one ingredient on the ingredient list, there might be very little chicken in the food, and it might make up very little portion of the actual food itself, even if it's the first ingredient. It's a kind of a trick there that dog food manufacturers may use to make it seem like there's more meat than there really is in the dog food. Something to be aware of. Now let's look at another example, namely Health Science Diet Adult Large Breed Chicken and Barley Recipe Dry Dog Food. Here is the estimated macronutrient profile of this food. Will you look at that? Can you believe how much carbs are really in this food? Isn't that crazy? The more carbs you add to dog food, the less room there really is for the nutrients that your dog actually does require. And really, it comes at the expense of, for instance, protein, which is so important for our dogs, and which really would be the base of a natural diet for a dog. Now, what about the food pyramid for this dog food? Well, it's estimated to look a little bit something like this. Again, there's no meat at the base of the diet. Remember, don't let the dog food packaging or the name of the dog food fool you. They often try to feature the meat ingredients in the dog food, even if the meat ingredients make up very little of the food itself. I think that's because we naturally know that our dogs should eat meat. That's what's healthy and natural for our dogs to eat. Yet, they kind of try to fool us into thinking that's what we are feeding our dogs, even if we're feeding almost 60% carbs instead. You know, in a way, I think Science Diet is kind of a nice name for, or appropriate name for this dog food, because I think it requires like a chemist to even put this food together. And that's not a good thing. Whole foods is way better than any put together, especially synthetic nutrients, can ever be for our dogs. By the way, if you enjoyed this kind of no BS, give it to you straight kind of videos on all things dog, then do remember to click that subscribe button and follow my channel. Remember to also click that notification button and to also follow me on Instagram at Viking Ingun. Now, we have two more dog foods to look at, and these are the less expensive ones, so let's see if those might surprise us. Let's look at EM's Proactive Health Adult Mini Chunks Dry Dog Food. Here's the estimated macronutrient profile of this food. It's pretty average, I would say, based on what we've just seen. Lots and lots of carbs, no surprise there. So what about the food pyramid for this food? Well, it may look something like this. Now, there are not a lot of ingredients here, and that may be a good sign, though the food pyramid itself doesn't really look like it makes much sense at all for dogs, does it? Again, there is no meat in the base of the diet. In general, though, I would say this food looks pretty similar to the other dog foods that we've looked at, even though it is cheaper. So more expensive food does not necessarily mean that the food actually is better for our dogs. Now, before we look at a kind of a generalized food pyramid of dog food for dogs, and also look at what this actually could do to our dog's health, or maybe doing to your dog's health right now, let's look at one more example of dog food, namely Pedigree Adult Complete Nutrition Roasted Chicken Rice and Vegetable Flavor Dry Dog Food. Wow, what a name, huh? Well, let's look at the estimated macronutrient profile of this food. Wow, ouch. That's a lot of carbs right there, and not a lot of protein, which is what is essential for our dogs. Let's look at what the food pyramid might look like for this food. One of the ways that we can see that this is actually a cheaper food is by looking at the generic meat and bone meal and animal fat. They haven't specified from which animals these foods come from. It really begs to question, how is it possible to add food like this where you can't even specify what animal it comes from? Where did this food come from? Could it be waste food from another industry, for instance? That does not look good for the quality of the food. Another thing to notice is that there is no meat that is unprocessed. Well, when you look at dry dog food in general, no meat will ever be unprocessed because the whole food itself is highly processed in the end. However, just the fact that they didn't add any unprocessed meat to this food and also use meat that is generic is a sign that this is a pretty cheap food and the quality is highly questionable. Now, based on these examples, some of the most popular dog foods out there, we can make a kind of a generalized food pyramid for dogs, and I think it would look something like this. Note, this is based on dog food, what most people are feeding their dogs every single day. And note that this is based on the ingredients of dog food themselves. So the whole pyramid here would in the end be highly processed, most likely if you're feeding kibble at least, and processed in some way or the other for most other dog foods as well. Plus, even a lot of the ingredients themselves may be highly processed before added to the mixture. As you may see, the big base of this diet is carbs, something our dogs don't even require in their diet. At the top of this pyramid, you'll have different additives. For instance, it can be vitamin and mineral mixes, it can be preservatives, coloring agents. Now, even though vitamins and minerals added to the food may sound like an amazing thing, some extra nutrients for our dogs, it may be a very bad sign. I mean, why is it even necessary? And a lot of these nutrients may even be synthetic, which is not necessarily the type of nutrients we want our dogs to depend on. The reason these are added in the first place may simply be because the other ingredients are not nutritious enough for our dogs. They lack the nutrients that our dogs actually need. So it's necessary to even add maybe even synthetic nutrients to the diet. Plus, it could also be that the harsh processing of the food itself may destroy so many of the nutrients that it's necessary to add additional nutrients. That's another sign that the food might not really be that good for our dogs. Now, remember the first pyramid we talked about in this video, which was based on optimal nutrition for our dogs? Well, it looks pretty different from the dog food pyramid, right? It's like night and day. Which one do you think is more natural? And which one would you choose for your dog if you just had the choice? Now, the biggest question that we all should be asking is whether or not this could actually be the reason our dogs are not living longer. Is this the reason that our dogs are getting cancer and all sorts of other diseases? It's estimated that 77% of dogs have dental disease. This is something most dog owners simply ignore, though it may be a sign that your dog's health is jeopardized. And an estimated 56% of dogs are overweight or obese. And obesity usually comes along with some other serious health issues. Plus, it has been said that cancer is the leading cause of death in dogs. Now, there are different estimates on how many dogs actually do get cancer, anywhere from 1 in 4 dogs to 1 in every 3 dogs. Though it's pretty common to estimate that around 50% of dogs that are 10 years or older actually get cancer and may die of cancer. Now, what do most of these dogs have in common? Apart from living very comfortable lives, they eat dog food. And from what we've just seen, it's a very unnatural diet for dogs. Now, it is possible to feed based on the other natural food pyramid for dogs, or even create different kind of version based on the different foods we have available to feed our dogs. Basically, to include some additions like treats, for instance. It may look something like this. Feeding based on a pyramid like this, I think, would give any dog pretty much the best possible chance at living the healthiest and longest life. It is, however, crucial to follow some important steps to make sure the dog actually gets all the nutrients the dog needs. And that's why I created the Viking Dog Diet System. It's a system that shows you step by step how to feed an all-natural, highly nutritious and delicious diet to dogs in a very simple way. All real foods for our dogs. It only takes a few minutes on a day-to-day basis. It's super simple and it's highly nutritious. There's no reason to focus on unnecessary nutrients for our dogs or processed food or harmful additives. It can be all natural and it can be simple. If you want to understand how you can feed such a diet to your dog, then you should check out the Viking Dog Diet System at vikingdogdiet.com right now. You may find the link below this video. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, then give it a thumbs up. Give your beautiful dog a hug from me, and I'll see you next time.